Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit.
Welcome back, all you citizens of the world. It's the second half of Live from the Heartland for the week of November 23rd. And on the way out of the last segment, leading into this one after the station break, we played Little David Wilkins' tune, Butter Beans. And the reason we did that, as I stated, was because Bob Love, a great Bulls player, back in the early days of the Chicago Bulls, has passed away at age 81. And he was from Louisiana. He had a severe stutter that he overcame later in life. And he is the third highest scorer on the Bulls behind Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. And he purportedly loved butter beans. And I always loved that tune, and that's why we played it. So now I bring on my cousin Adam James with Cousin Adam's monthly sports report on the Live from the Heartland show. He'll be back around Christmas time. And good morning to you, Adam, out there in Los Angeles. And what do you got to tell us about Bob Love?
Well, hello, Michael, and everybody at the Heartland. Great to see you all again. And yes, Bob Love, one of the great Chicago Bulls, no doubt about it, was a phenomenal player. But, more importantly, what Bob Love's legacy will always be is his connection to the community, the work that he did as an ambassador of basketball, of sports, and of Chicago. He really worked diligently with community groups throughout his career. And after he retired, and he became a true champion of the greater communities and the society at large. So, kudos and commendations to the great Bob Love. May he rest in peace. What a tremendous champion of life and, of course, the Chicago Bulls.
Let's stick with Chicago Bulls and Chicago teams. We've had some up and downs with the Bulls. We've had certainly some up and downs with the Bears. And we have other teams, too. What do you got to report, Adam?
Well, Chicago sports continues to thrive. It's just unfortunately not at that championship level, apparently. So there's a lot of fans who are hoping that they'll raise their game. And unfortunately, this year has been more of spinning the wheels. So hopefully the young guys are going to grow and learn. These veteran players are going to be able to guide them as a team to a higher, result as the year continues. The Chicago Bears in particular are a frustration for a lot. They've had a few moments where they looked really good and had the potential to possibly make it to playoffs with the wild card. That's starting to slip away now. And of course, the coach is on the hot seat and there's a chance they may make a change there. That's really unfortunate. Because if you think back in the offseason, when they had this number one selection, they had the chance to take this superstar quarterback. They also had an opportunity to make a change at the leadership position, at the head coach. They chose to stand pat. They knew that there was some possibility that this coach was not going to survive this next year or 2 years if he doesn't get a championship flow going, if he doesn't start showing progress with the team. And so unfortunately, that's what's happening. And so it looks like they're going to let him go. And that's unfortunate for this star quarterback. When you have a young quarterback coming into the game, one of the most important things is consistency, that they see the field in a consistent way through that first year into the second, into the third, so they can build confidence. When you're switching head coaches, you're switching quarterback coaches, you're switching the offensive coordinator. And so he's going to have a different scheme, most likely, not guaranteed, but most likely the Chicago Bears will be making a change in the offseason. One last little tidbit on that, not to reminisce too much, but if they had made the switch last year, there was a chance they could have gotten that quarterback, former Chicago Bears quarterback, now head coach, Jim Harbaugh, who at that time was, of course, coming off his, championship season with the Michigan Wolverines, possibly coming to the NFL. He did, and he chose the Chargers. Could have been a Chicago Bear head coach. But anyway, we're going to move forward in the future. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be Deion Sanders coaching the Chicago Bears next year.
Well, that would be a trip. Yeah,
I don't think so. I think he's going to stay in the college game. I heard a commentator the other day say about him, probably his greatest skill as a coach, as amazing as he's been performing in each and every category, including strategists on the field. The thing that he's really excelling at is recruiting, convincing these young men to come and play for him and play for the University of Colorado and the Buffaloes and being a champion under his direction. That takes a lot. It takes a lot of savvy, a lot of smarts, and a lot of, chutzpah for him to convince these guys to come and trust him. So I think that's where he will excel for the next 5, 10, maybe 20 years is at the college level, maybe be a Nick Saban in Colorado.
But you think there's a chance he might come to the Bears?
There's a chance that he might jump to the NFL. There is already speculation, not so much the Chicago Bears, but the Dallas Cowboys. If the Cowboys switch their head coach, which most likely will happen, Deion Sanders would be a hot topic because he's a former Dallas Cowboy. He, of course, is on fire as a head coach right now in the college game. The real question is what's best for him and for his family. And one of the commentators that I was listening to recently made a really good point. And that is that this is a guy who's on a trajectory of great success. And you switch him into coaching with the Dallas Cowboys, that might not be the best move.
They're having a rough time.
Well, they will as long as they have an owner who, believes that he's the head coach. And, God bless the man. He's built an amazing, dynasty there in so many ways, except for championships. Ever since that initial run, they've continued to fail. And I mean, they're a good quality organization and they continue to make money. So that's not a failure. But the ultimate goal in the NFL is to win Super Bowls. And they've come up short every year since he let Jimmy Johnson go. And then Barry Switzer, of course, got him one more.
Well, I've never been a fan of the Cowboys, particularly those Cowboys.
But they are a love or hate. You either love them or hate them. Most of the people in this country, one way or the other.
We had a situation where we, in both basketball and in football, in the NFL and the NBA, we had two undefeated teams. In the NFL, we had the Kansas City Chiefs, and they went up against Buffalo.
That's correct.
And they were undefeated. And just this week, the Cleveland Cavaliers played Boston, who won the NBA championship last year, and they were defeated. Give us a little story about basketball and football and the defeat of the undefeated.
You got it. Well, staying on football for just a moment, no doubt about it, the Kansas City Chiefs, I mentioned this on our show here a month ago, is that this is a team that has the look of another championship. They've been on a run. Now, it's been a little close. They had a few wins that came with last-second shenanigans. So they have the ability to be the champion again this year. They don't look quite as strong as the Detroit Lions, but it's a long season. I love what the quarterback said after the game, and that is, we'll do it up again in the postseason. That's where the Kansas City Chiefs have time and time again risen up and proven themselves, and that's what someone else is going to need to do to them in order to knock them off. Now, in the NBA, yes, absolutely. The Cleveland Cavaliers have been on fire. Great young team, good core. Donovan Mitchell's a fantastic star player, and they've built a great program there. They did go into Boston, the defending NBA champions, the other night as an undefeated team, and as part of this NBA Cup, which is the new in-season tournament. And, Boston did defend their home court and knock them off. But watch out for Cleveland later this year. Real quickly, this NBA Cup is an interesting thing. This is a brand new concept by the NBA. They created a tournament inside of the NBA regular season. So the NBA regular season is unfolding. Of course, it's 82 games, and a lot of people get a little disconnected as the season unfolds because there's so many games. And once you get to the postseason, that's where the real action starts. So they've created a little mini postseason within the season. This NBA Cup is a tournament that they play out through a series of regular season games. Only 4 teams advance to the finals, which are played in Las Vegas. And there they pay for a lot of money. The play that they do out there, the game that they play, gives the players a tremendous reward financially. So it really motivates them up, creates a real passionate tournament feel inside the season. By the way, the defending NBA Cup champion are these Los Angeles Lakers out here on the West Coast. And just last night, the Los Angeles Lakers star young rookie player, Dalton Knecht from the University of Tennessee, the SEC Player of the Year last year, just had a phenomenal game. I don't know if you saw that. He had 9 3-point shots, which is tying the NBA rookie record. He had 37 points total. Really kind of shook up the league because he's a star player coming out of college who dropped all the way to the 17th spot when he was drafted by the Lakers. A lot of people are surprised he fell that far. Part of that is because he's a little bit older. He's 23, as opposed to a lot of the young players coming into the NBA, 18, 19, 20 at the most, which provides greater upside as far as how they grow and change the players. People kind of know what they were going to get with Dalton Knecht. Well, now they know what they get with Dalton Knecht, which is one heck of a shooter.
You sent me a few notes about things we might talk about. And sure. What I always like is the politics in sports.
Yes.
And, one of the things we talked a lot about on this show, we even had Dave Zirin, who wrote a book about Colin Kaepernick on. You have a note here, Kaepernick and Trump dance. What do you mean by that, Adam James? Fill us in.
Well, as many people know, Donald Trump, President Trump, during a campaign, did a dance on the stage with the YMCA song playing. Many people made fun of it, but what's been happening in the sports world, several star players have actually done the Trump dance after scoring winning plays, including the captain of the United States national soccer team after a big game the other day. And some people consider it kind of an endorsement, a political statement, if you will. The NFL, for example, after several of their players performed it, have made the official statement that they do not view it as a political statement, and therefore it is not illegal. It is a celebration. And, it does kind of raise the concept about how sports is a gathering place where people come together and we can kind of resolve a lot of things. Some people say keep politics out of it. But I referenced in my notes to you also the famous 1968 Olympics moment with the Black Power salute. There was a moment of political statement within the sports, really trying to bring attention to something that was very important to some of the athletes. Colin Kaepernick did this as well. In some ways, for people who have tolerance and respect for others, allowing somebody to do a silly dance might not be such a bad thing. It just depends on what the purpose of it is. I will share with you one thought that kind of deepens how we view these things. I was reading about the court case with the Colorado baker who refused service to a couple based on her religious beliefs. And during the Supreme Court arguments, one of the things that one of the justices raised, he's not one of the most popular justices, and I'm not agreeing with his position, but it does raise an interesting point. And that is, what would you do with a person dressed in a Ku Klux Klan outfit who wants to sit on the lap of a black Santa at a shopping mall? Would you deny that he has that right? Or would you insist that he sit on that lap?
Well, I'm not sure what I do on that. I have to think about this, but I do think that despite how people want to pull a veil over certain things, there is some really right-wing stuff going on in sports. And there are also a long line of progressive sports athletes. Go back to our friend Dave Megasy, who wouldn't salute the flag during the Vietnam War.
Right.
And he really challenged racism and, the war in Vietnam, as well as racism in the sports. And, he took a lot of heat for that.
Yes.
Kaepernick clearly took a lot of heat, too. What's your take, though, on, even the fight the other night between Mike Tyson and that, I think he's a British guy?
No, he's American, Jake Paul.
American, okay. And they, there's a little bit of a Trumpian vibe in that guy.
Oh, yeah.
So
yes, sir.
Tell me about that fight. I mean, it was kind of poo-pooed on by a lot of people, but it was interesting.
Well, there's a couple different topics there. One is, of course, the fight itself. Was that a good thing? A lot of the people who were in the boxing sport of boxing, combat sports in general, there was mixed feelings about it. Some people really loved it because it does draw attention to the sport. It does get, butts in seats and ticket sales, and therefore gets people motivated or interested in the next fight, hopefully, possibly. Other people don't like it because it does, bring a lot of attention to not the highest level of performance. Whereas, in a month, there's going to be an unbelievable heavyweight championship of the world between two people who are probably two of the greatest fighters in history. But how many people know about that one? So as a boxing fan, you're hoping those who are casual fans of Tyson versus Paul are going to tune into Usyk versus Fury, but we'll see. But definitely it was a spectacle. And unfortunately for those who were wanting to see Mike Tyson appear as he was, 30 plus years ago, that wasn't the case. Time happens, things change. He's a gentleman who's now in his late 50s, and the guy who was fighting was in his 20s. But more importantly, in my opinion, when you look at the sport itself, the activity, Mike hadn't been doing it for the last, 15, 20 plus years. And this other guy had been actively doing it for the last several years in a row. Like he just fought a few months ago. And that's different. That's like walking out on a basketball court. You haven't played in 20 plus years, and you're going to go out there against a guy who may not be an NBA superstar, but he's been running up and down the court with some really good players. And you're going to try and go out there and play with him. You better be on your game. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, anyhow, I was rooting for Tyson, and I think the first couple of rounds I heard were pretty good. But then he didn't have it. And the other guy apparently is a right-wing guy. I don't know what his politics are.
Yes, he is. And that is prevalent. As you know, it's kind of right now with this particular movement, it's a lot of machoism. It's a lot of guys who are, NFL fans, gun owners, military, MMA fans. The UFC organization as a whole is almost, a pro-Trump organization. If you think about it, the organization leader is very pro-Trump. He spoke at the convention. Many of their athletes, embrace that. And to me, that's politics, that's life, and that's America, freedom. Let them do what they want to do. But as far as like embracing the rest of the community, if they want to grow that sport, if they want to that's part of why the NHL, took such efforts to try to embrace the LGBT community, even though they backed down and they backed off and they have kind of been a little weak in their recent positioning about it. But I appreciated the fact that they had tried. And the purpose of it is to try to let the rest of the greater community know that, hey, we've got tickets for sale. We're open for business. Come down and watch our exciting sport. And that should be the attitude of every organization, not to alienate the greater fan base by being overly political, which swings it back to Kaepernick, and which is why you might look at it from the standpoint of saying, you can see where the business owners might say, I don't want to make this overly political. I don't want you making a big political statement before we have our performance, because it does make some of our fans feel a little alienated and not so focused on my product. I also agree, though, that as a human being in a society with real travesties, with real injustice, there comes a time when you have to say, I just can't go out and play a game right now. Or I can, but I'm going to make sure you know that my heart is hurting right now. And so that's why I feel it's a complex thing. You can't just say, this guy's completely wrong. And that includes these Trump dance guys,
Yeah. Well, what about social media? You have some notice in here, social conscious messaging seen as political. Do we already cover that, or is there anything to add?
We kind of have in this conversation here, but I will share with you, it was something that I noted, which I thought was really fascinating. And that was when one of the famous NFL players, Nick Bosa, who went to Ohio State University, so a real Midwest guy, real pro-Trump guy, he made a point of wearing a MAGA hat during an NFL news moment, a television moment, which is illegal according to the NFL, not allowed. And he got fined for it. And I read a comment in some of the comment sections where people were discussing whether that was fair or not. Exactly the topic we were just talking about, whether it's right to bring politics into the sports environment. And one of the comments was, well, the NFL does their political statements in the end zones and on the helmets. Well, if you've noticed that ever since the George Floyd moment, the Black Lives Matter movement, the NFL and some of the other major sports, especially the NBA, have made a point of saying end racism. They have big giant signs, and it takes all of us. We're all in this together, and those kind of phrases. And when I read in a comment section that some of our fellow Americans see that as political, I thought to myself, I guess ending racism is a political position. I guess it is in a lot of ways. There are some people who feel that having racist beliefs are okay. That's freedom of expression. And having racist policies, as long as they're based on your religion, are okay. And I think that comes back to another very complex thing, which is that in our country, you're protected by race and sex and age, but you're not protected by sexual orientation. In our Constitution, this is where there's a debate whether your freedom of religion trumps another person's freedom to exist. There's no major religion that right now views another race as being a lesser person and therefore able to be discriminated against. However, I will point out there is one major religious subsect, major organization that until recently did have in their doctrine that non-whites were not going to heaven, and non-white males, in other words, women couldn't go to heaven either unless they were married to one. And that wasn't until just recently that they changed that doctrine. So again, it's not outside of reason to say that there could be a religious group that says that's our religious belief, and the Supreme Court would have to view on.
Yeah, it's a complicated thing. I like politics and sports when it's moving in a progressive direction. Not so big on it. We've covered enough of that. We only have a minute or two left. And one of the things I like to do with you at the end of each, or when we have a monthly session together, is to talk about either personal training or some tips. And you just attended another of your certification classes as a personal trainer. Give us a little bit on the components of, being a good athlete.
Yes. Well, wonderful. Well, one of the things you've heard me say many times on the show, everybody, is that as much fun as it is to watch sports, it's even more fun to do them. I really encourage everybody to get out there and participate, engage, have fun. And one of the things that people need to remember is that our body is our sport. Fitness is the sport of life. And we really want to get in there and play this, get fit. And for a lot of people, they're not quite sure where to go and how to do that. Well, I'm part of an organization, the National College of Exercise Professionals, that has a holistic fitness approach. We are the holistic personal trainer certification. We're actually big across the country. We've taught our certification from one end of the coast to the other. We have a lot of certified personal trainers in the Chicago area. We've taught there many times. And our approach is the holistic fitness approach. And what that means is holistic means whole or natural. And so the whole approach is, number one, we start with attitude. Attitude training is where all fitness actually begins. And to help people have specific exercises to train your mind to be fit, mentally fit, we teach the MAGA or MAGA acronym term for meditation, affirmations, visualization, and anchoring. Anchoring is a technique that you use to create a connection between a physical gesture and a power word that you state and an emotional state that you get in, like that zone when you can take every shot and make every one you take. That is something that you can actually train to have at your fingertips, so to speak. And great championship teams do those techniques, the MAGA techniques. The next component of fitness that we teach is nutrition. Proper nutrition is the key to great health. And again, we have this holistic approach. We actually have a certification that we teach, the holistic nutritionist certification. Now, I know you're really a healthy eater. You had the Heartland Cafe for many years.
I ate good for 36 years and I still eat pretty well.
Awesome. I love it. Well, with us, we know that there's a lot of different diverse approaches to what people eat. So with our approach that we share through our personal trainers is the holistic nutrition approach. And we have 5 components of nutrition. And they're really simple. They help people have a better approach to nutrition and how they eat. One of the things that we advocate for is small meals throughout the day. Not big meals and eating gigantic meals, but little tiny meals like the size of your hands. And a little amount throughout the day helps maintain higher metabolism, better digestion. It's better for your body. Fasting is something that people do use, and it can be very effective, especially for people when combining it with religious reasons. It can be very spiritual and uplifting. But fasting for a regular purpose of just trying to, quote unquote, lose weight is not the answer. Small meals throughout the day, keeping a caloric threshold just below what you need to burn, the law of thermodynamics, more out than in, you will naturally lose weight.
Adam, one thing I didn't ask you was about this new transfer portal in college sports. And I bring it up because next week's guest is our pal, Russ Bradford, who has written a number of books, and most of them around basketball. And this is a novel he did where at Coors State University, the athletic department has really taken over the university, and the professors have to sell popcorn and programs to keep their jobs. And I just, in getting ready to talk to Russ next week, I wanted to ask you real quickly, what's your take on this transfer portal, which has, really hotshot athletes from anywhere in the country transferring to different schools, and there's money involved? Your take on it?
It's a great question. A lot of people are very uncomfortable with the transfer portal. It creates change, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with it. It does hyper accentuate the business component of college athletics. And some people find that really uncomfortable. But the truth of the matter is that's what's happening. These sports are happening. Fans come out, they tune in online, they tune in on the television, and major dollars are crossing hands. And the group that deserves a portion of that money are the athletes. Right. They deserve a portion of that, and they deserve freedom like any other American citizen. If they want to quit their job and go to another job, they should have a right to do that. They shouldn't sign a contract and be locked into it for the next multiple years and unable to work anywhere else. That's not right. So I'm a big fan of freedom, and I'm a big fan of the college football portal and college portal in general, allowing athletes to move about as they would any other student who after a semester, after a college year, decides I'm going to transfer to a different school, simply transfers as long as they have the transfer credits to do so. To me, that's fair. That's right. I am a strong believer in good business, but there is a component of business that I was taught, and it's called the triple win, that I think a lot of businesses miss out on. See, the double win is what a lot of people think about. The company wins and the customer wins. They get a fair price. I make a profit. I stay in business. But there's a third part of this process, and that's the employees, the people that are there working. Oftentimes they're neglected in the double win scenario, but the triple win is where the business owner thinks about their employee too and says, I want to make sure my employee is well compensated, well rewarded, that I created a positive environment for where they work so that they feel mentally and emotionally awarded by just being here. And if you do that and your employees are happy, your customers are more happy because they're around an environment that's really a winning environment, and you make money, and that's the triple win.
Hey, thank you, Cousin Adam. And this was a good Cousin Adam sports report, and I'll look forward to our next one, which probably will be near Christmas time. I see you're wearing your Irish shirt because your mom was half Irish. Okay.